Saturday, July the 29th, 28th or the 29th, one of them. And it's about 7:40 in the morning. I'm just getting home and settled from work. I've ate, took my dog out, and I decided to come and answer 8 frequently asked questions about ultrasound. So the first one I got was, what is ultrasound? So ultrasound is sound waves with frequencies. They range between 2 to 15 megahertz. And we're pretty much taking sound waves and turning them into images. Most of the time when we're doing ultrasound, we are trying to diagnose the patient. We're trying to figure out why their LFTs are elevated or what's causing their right upper quadrant pain. We're trying to check to see if they have a DVT, positive or negative, which are blood clots, cirrhosis of the liver, if their testicles are swollen, if the doctor feels swollen lymph nodes in their necks, we're going to check their thyroids. So ultrasound is a diagnostic medical sonography, and we're pretty much using sound waves and frequencies to turn these pictures, the sound waves, into pictures. The next question I was asked is, why did I choose ultrasound and not nursing or respiratory therapy? So honestly, growing up as a little girl, I always wanted to be 2 things in life. I either wanted to be a judge or I wanted to be a neonatal nurse. Judge went out the window once I started to think about, what if I send somebody to life? Their family may come after me and I don't want to deal with that. So I was like, let me go to the second thing that I enjoy, which was NICU nurse. And I wanted to be a NICU nurse because growing up, I have a lot of sisters and I have one brother. And I was at my sister's doctor's appointments and I was there when they delivered their children. And I was very interested in the NICU. I would always just go to the hospital and sit outside the NICU and watch those nurses care for those babies. And I remember telling my mom, I want to do that when I grow up. I want to be that nurse. Well, once I started to do research on NICU nurses and I did some rotations, job shadow rotations for a NICU nurse, I decided that I am not emotionally stable enough to be a NICU nurse. It's one thing to go and to watch the nurses care for those babies on the opposite side of the glass, and then being that nurse that has to care for those babies. And I think I'll break down and cry. And now that I'm in ultrasound school and we have to go to the NICU, y'all, I don't think I could do it. When I walk in there, I'm like, what in the world was I thinking? Even thinking about being a NICU nurse. Like, those babies were crying so much, and it's like 50 crying babies at one time. I just want to put pacifiers in all of their mouths when I go up to the NICU, or when I have to go to labor and delivery or mother baby with the sonographers to scan babies. My ears can't take it, y'all. And I know that over time you just get immune and you get used to it and you start to tune it out, but I'm good. So yeah, I didn't do nursing because I only wanted to be a NICU nurse. Mind you, I am very aware that it's different specialties with nursing, but that's what I wanted to do as a nurse if I would have became a nurse. I also think that nurses are burnt out. And you can get burnt out on any healthcare field, any clinical healthcare profession. You can be burnt out. But I just feel like nurses are burnt out, and it's just like that go-to field. It's so cliche, and it's the go-to field everybody goes to be a nursing and to be a nurse. And people have their different reasons, but I think a lot of times a lot of people don't even research anything outside of nursing, or they don't know other options, because I know some nurses that are now in different fields, whether it be allied health or they became a doctor or radiologist or whatever the case may be. Like, one of the nurses at the perinatal center at one of our rotations, she was a nurse for a lot of years, and she's now a sonographer, and she's been a sonographer for a lot of years also. And one day I sat down and I asked her, I said, hey, do you think that you'll ever go back and do nursing? And she was like, no. I was like, so which one do you enjoy better? And she was like, I'm glad I became a sonographer. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all choice-wise, and I just think that sonography, once I did my research and I educated myself and I did job shadowing, I liked that environment better. I didn't choose respiratory therapy because honestly, I don't want to deal with mucus all day. That's just something I don't want to have to deal with. Kudos to the ones that are respiratory therapists and they can deal with it. I don't want to. So that's that on that question. The next question is, what is needed to get into ultrasound program or ultrasound school? There are a few classes that's needed, and they're required pretty much no matter where you apply. You need A&P 1 and 2. You need college algebra, statistics, psychology, physics. Sometimes you need to take 2 psychology. Sometimes you just need to take 1. Oh, and you need to take English, 1101 and 1102, which is the first and second English, if I didn't say English already. It is very critical that you make A's in those math and science classes. If not all of the classes, you definitely want to make them in the math and the science classes. Sonography is so competitive nowadays. You can't risk not making A's in your math and science classes. Do not get me wrong, and I'm not going to be that person that says just because you don't have a 4.0 you need to change your major, because I've been told that. I have friends that have done ultrasound and other clinical healthcare programs, and they've been told if they didn't have a certain GPA they might as well change their major, and none of them were low. They were either 3.2s or higher, but I have been told, and I know people who have been told to change their major. So let me give you a little background on how this whole clinical healthcare works. It's pretty much a number game. It's all about who you're competing with at that time for that year, for those seats. If the average person or the average GPA is a 2.75 and you got a 3.0, you're in there. Now, if most of the people applying have a 4.0, then you have to be able to compete with those who are applying with you at that time. That's what it is. I mean, and I've seen it where some people that struggle, and I'm not going to say they were dumb or they're not so smart, because for me, I feel like the GPA isn't everything. A GPA is how well you can test and you can get out that class and you can pass and the grades you can make. It's some people who know the information, but they're just really bad test takers for whatever reason, or they just don't do well. That doesn't mean that they're not smart. But I know some people who have challenged, it's been a challenge for them with their prereqs, and they have gotten into these programs because that year the people that they have competed with, people that apply with them, their GPAs was a little bit higher or around the same ballpark, so they got in. So just keep in mind, it's always a number game. Nowadays the field is very competitive, and I remember when I was applying for the 3rd time, as most of you know from previous videos, I stated that I had applied to an ultrasound the 3rd time before I was accepted. And the last time I applied, I had applied to a few different schools within the Atlanta area as far as 75 miles out. And I remember asking a group of girls that were going to graduate soon at another school, like, what was the GPA of the class that you were accepted in? And they were like, everybody had either 4.0s, the least GPA was like a 3.9, and at that school you still needed to take a test, and I think they took the Hobbit and everybody aced their Hobbit. So I mean, just do well in those math and science classes, y'all. Ace them. Ultrasound is nothing but sonography, nothing but A&P, so you definitely need to make sure you have a solid foundation in A&P. That'll help you from struggling when you start the program. There was something else I wanted to mention about that. I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but yes, make sure you guys have those A's. Don't give up. Don't let nobody tell you to change your major, but keep in mind it's a competitive field, and you are competing against some overachievers, some really hard workers, some really smart people. All right, so the next question is, what type of degree do you need to make good money in the ultrasound field? This question, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you have. If you have an associate's, a certificate, a bachelor's, you still have to sit for your state boards and you still have to become registered. What gets you paid is what you're registered in, your experience, and how many specialties or letters you have behind your name. Everybody starts out in the same ballpark, whether it's a certificate, an associate's degree, or a bachelor's degree. So do not get caught up in the degree per se. I would say make sure you pick a reputable school, one that's known to be a good school, one that has good clinic sites, ones that you feel is a good school, okay? As far as the type of certificate or degree or diploma you may receive, that doesn't matter because the pay grade is the same. And I know this because I have a few friends that are sonographers, and some of them have certificates, some of them have bachelor's degrees. And when I asked them, like, does it matter? Is the pay going to be different? They were like, no, we all started the same. You know, it's a specialty and the years of experience you have that gets you more money. The next question is, how long is the program? So this is going to vary state by state, I'm sure, school by school, program by program. It can be as little as 12 months and it can be as long as 24 months. My program is 18 months. It's an advanced program. I know some people that did a 12-month program. Actually, a few years ago, my program used to be 12 months, but they extended it out to 18 months. So that just depends on what school you apply for. So that's something that you have to figure out when you get ready to look at different ultrasound schools. You should be able to easily find that information online for the school that you're looking to apply for. The next question is, how expensive is ultrasound school? This is another thing that's going to vary school by school, state by state. It can be as little as $12,000. My school, my program is a little bit over $12,000, but I know a lot of programs that are very costly, about $50,000, $60,000. It is a school in Atlanta called Chamberlain. They offer an associate's degree in diagnostic medical sonography. I looked at them when I first moved to Atlanta, and they are about $55,000. It's a school, Stanford Brown. It was a pretty good school that used to be open a few years ago in Atlanta. They are around that same amount. Pretty expensive. So it all depends on if it's public or private, if it's like from an educational hospital. It's a few things that's going to determine the cost. That's something else that you should be able to easily find on the internet when you start to do research for these ultrasound programs. If you find a school that's in your area and it's costly and you don't want to pay that amount, I would recommend that you look into other options, whether it be relocating. Don't be afraid to relocate. Like, if this is something that you want to do, no matter if it's ultrasound, nursing, anthropology, I don't care what it is. If it's something that you want to do, you're going to do what needs to be done to get it complete. So if you're somewhere and all of the ultrasound schools in your area that's close by your house is really expensive, think about relocating, you know, because just think about it. You're going to sacrifice that distance or relocate for a small amount of time, and who knows, you may end up in a different area by relocating, and the pay might be a lot better. It may be more job openings. You know, you may meet some amazing people. Don't be afraid to relocate, okay? The next question is, how many days do you have class? So we have class 5 days a week. We have class Monday and Wednesday from 8 to 2. Sometimes we get out at 12, but we're usually not there longer than 2. And then we have clinic rotations from 8 to 4 on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And we can change our clinic time as early as 7, from 7 to 3, 7:30 to 3:30, 8 to 4. So we're there. It's a full-time school program, daytime shift. I'm pretty sure It's some schools that offer evening classes or even clinical rotations. Not my school, but I've heard of a few people that had that option. It may not be readily available everywhere, but I mean, if it's an option, hey, if that works for you, go with it. The next question is, what are the different specialties that ultrasound offers? So if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure I'm 100% right about this. Every program will allow you to sit for 2 registries before you graduate or upon graduation, and that's OB and general. Now you can do vascular, you can do echo, which is dealing with the heart, you can do breast, you can do MSK, and MSK is a newer type of ultrasound specialty. I'm sure it's a few more, probably 2 to 3 more, but those are the ones that I can remember off the top of my head. I actually want to do I actually want to do echo. So I think that when I'm done and I start working, I'm going to on the job train for echo. So if you want to pick up another specialty, become registered in another specialty, for the most part you can just work and you can have someone that's already registered in that specialty sign off after you do, I think it's about anywhere between 1,500 and 3,000 hours you have to do of that specialty. They can sign off, so they're putting their license on the line for you, saying that you're competent enough to sit for the state board to be certified in this registry for this specialty. You'll go take your state board and you can become registered in that specialty. So that's always an option. And just remember, the more letters you have behind your name, the more specialties you're registered in, the more money you make. Another question is, can you travel with ultrasound? You can. And like nursing or any other healthcare field, you make really good money traveling. I do know someone who got their bachelor's. We got our bachelor's at the same school, but she did ultrasound there, and she is doing her second run in the Bay Area as a travel sonographer. So you can travel and make good money. You usually need to have at least 2 years of experience, but just keep in mind that like any other healthcare field, it's shortages in certain areas, and certain areas are low. What do you want to call it? What's the correct word? Low. I can't think of the word. My brain is fragile. I've been working since 7 p.m. yesterday. Low. Gosh, y'all know the areas underprivileged. Not underprivileged. These are all the wrong words. You know the areas where low income, kinda. You get it. I can't even think about it, and I'm so sorry that I'm probably using all the wrong words at this point. But areas that need help as far as the population, a struggling population, for the lack of better words, and forgive me that I can't think. And I mean, I know it, but I just can't think about what word I need to use. But it's some areas, and I think it's some parts of California that I saw myself, where they'll pay you like to go to school in exchange for you to work in that area, in the underprivileged area for 12 months. So, hey, you can travel. Yes, you can. So for those who don't know, ultrasound is the allied health field, and it is accredited by the Commission of Accreditation of Allied Health Education Programs. It's short for CAAHEP. And when you're looking for ultrasound programs and ultrasound schools to attend, if you want to know if they're accredited, then you want to just go to the CAAHEP website. They will show you all of the schools that's accredited, and you can do it by state. Just keep in mind, you can still go to a school that's not accredited. Now, this is the catch with that. It is a heck of a lot harder to sit for registries when a school isn't accredited. Some people won't take your registry at all. Sometimes it takes about a year or two before you can sit for your state boards, because you have a long list of things to do in order to sit, versus a school that's already registered by CAAHEP. You can just sit for them. But make sure that you go to that website. Don't let people tell you, oh, go to this school because they're accredited, or we're accredited. People will say they're accredited and they're not. And you also have to make sure that they're accredited in the specialty in which you want to be able to work, because that's another thing. But yes, that's it for this video. I didn't want to make it too long. If you guys have any other questions, just let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.